no probable cause exists to file any charge against Officer Wilson and returned a no true bill on each of the 5 indictments.
No indictment. A grand jury clears Officer Darren Wilson in the shooting death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri.
And now live pictures right now in Ferguson. This is the burning of a Walgreens, protests going on and violence to report. Of course, hundreds in law enforcement are there, from police to the FBI, even the National Guard, working their hardest tonight to try and keep the peace. Good evening, everybody. 3 months and 15 days after Michael Brown was killed, the grand jury has made its decision.
This after one of the most thorough investigations ever taken on. Dozens of witnesses, pages and pages of reports, but in the end, Officer Darren Wilson will not be charged. The grand jury met for 25 separate days. They heard more than 70 hours of testimony, and they interviewed about 60 witnesses. They also heard hours of recordings and reviewed the details from 3 autopsies from Michael Brown. The prosecuting attorney says this was a complete investigation.
They are the only people who have heard and examined every witness and every piece of evidence. They discussed and debated the evidence among themselves before arriving at their collective decision. After their exhaustive review of the evidence, the grand jury deliberated over 2 days, making their final decision.
Shortly after the decision, we got a statement from Michael Brown's family. It says, quote, "We are profoundly disappointed that the killer of our child will not face the consequences of his action." They also had a message for the thousands of protesters saying, quote, "We ask that you channel your frustration in ways that will make a positive change. We need to work together to fix the system that allowed this to happen."
Obviously, that is not happening. There is plenty of rioting going on. We're closely watching, in fact, St. Louis County Police for instant updates from Ferguson on Twitter. Look at that. You can see fires there of a police car. There have been reports of shots fired, plenty of looting, and as I just mentioned, a police cruiser had its back window smashed, more than one. It looks like that one is on fire. We want to take another live look at Ferguson, and I know we were looking earlier. This is apparently a bunch of folks surrounding a vehicle. Now, I'm not sure exactly what, or several vehicles that is, but plenty of people out there protesting at this time. We were looking at video just a little bit ago, a live look at the actual convenience mart where this all started, where allegedly cigarettes or cigars were stolen, that people were looting that particular convenience store.
We have also heard of, besides protests, that police have been using tear gas and smoke bombs to try to stop some of the violence and keep the crowds under control. And you can see the crowds are huge there. Yeah,
they're talking tens and tens of thousands of people filling the streets in and around Ferguson. Our Scripps station, KSHB, is right in the thick of it tonight.
Jenna Hanchard reports from the middle of all the protests on the reaction just after the decision was made outside the Ferguson Police Department.
We're outside of the Ferguson Police Department where a lot of people are gathering. It was definitely very tense when the St. Louis County prosecutor made the announcement that Darren Wilson was not going to be indicted. People were very frustrated, and they actually rushed the barricades and were throwing things at police officers. That's when things really heated up. So right now there are organized protests and people that have kind of been mulling about, but definitely a sense of frustration here tonight in Ferguson. Reporting in Ferguson, I'm Jenna Hanchard.
And we thank Jenna for that. There are demonstrations happening in several cities tonight, but there are none happening here.
At least that we know of. Since unrest first started, Cincinnati activists have been to Ferguson trying to preach hope. Evan Millward continues live team coverage now with how Cincinnati reacts and advice for moving on. Evan?
Well, Carol, the rally cry has been issued here in Cincinnati. Community advocates, some who were part of the 2001 riots and healing, will meet here in front of the federal courthouse downtown tomorrow evening, calling not just for justice for Michael Brown, but also for some local cases, John Crawford III and Samantha Ramsey.
People thought that this was Ferguson.
Iris Rowley pulls out pictures, not from Ferguson, Missouri. They're from Cincinnati, 2001.
I think in 2001 what we also had was the will to do better.
Rowley's been in Ferguson 3 times since Michael Brown was shot and killed in August. She's been maced twice. She took some of this video a couple months ago.
And so in Ferguson they just don't have that will as we see today.
Now she watches crowds mobilize once again on the streets. It all looks so familiar.
The people are just as frustrated as we were in 2001. And as you see, Ferguson has gotten it egregiously wrong. Ferguson's lack of leadership has gotten it egregiously wrong in handling this particular case.
I was not surprised. It still is very hurting, but I must say I was not surprised.
Bishop Bobby Hilton's torn.
I'm not anti-cop, but we have to get some things straight. We really do.
He's calling for Cincinnati to be a model, a change agent.
Cincinnati, because we've been there and we've seen change, I think the nation needs to be looking very closely at what has happened in Cincinnati now.
And like Cincinnati in 2001, Ferguson and St. Louis stand on a ledge. And for months, Iris Rowley's been trying to show them a way off it.
I'm still hopeful that people will work for reforming their police department. And the state will look at training. The state and the national government will look at national databases so that these types of things can be tracked and we can understand better what's going on.
And again, that rally scheduled here 5 o'clock downtown in front of the federal courthouse tomorrow. They promise it will be a peaceful rally calling for hope. And we've checked with Cincinnati police tonight. They're not doing anything special, and there have been no reports of any problems here in the Queen City. We're live downtown. Evan Millward, 9 on your side.